Hey Magic fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check out the link above to my Patreon page. I just wanted to check in real quick. This is just one match out of a league that I've been playing. My last few leagues haven't been that great. A couple of 2-3s. I've been mulliganing a lot, and with this deck, I'm finding that, if you miss time Ephemerate once, it could be the difference between blowing the opponent out or getting blown out yourself. So still learning how to play the deck better. But yeah, the last couple leagues not that great, but this game was a lot of fun. So as I mentioned, I've been mulliganing a lot, and this hand doesn't quite get there for me. 4 lands is a lot. Really needs a 2-drop. Eternal Witness not coming down until turn 3. It's pretty slow. Yes, we'll get 2 draws to potentially hit a 2-drop before turn 2. But I don't know, just too clunky for me. Doesn't even have a blue spell to pitch to force, so I had to mulligan this one. I believe the opponent mulliganed also. All right, now this looks very similar to the hand we just had, except it has a Charming Prince, which makes all the difference. I'm going to play Misty Rainforest, get Temple Garden on turn 1 tapped, which means I can pitch this basic Plains. Opponent mulligan to 6, cycles Street Wraith. Plays Grove of the Burn Willows. Not a spell that you see, sorry, not a land that you see every day in Modern. Have a Force. I would rather have a blue card to pitch, but currently do not. And Monstrous Carabid means that we're playing against Living End. They can go off at instant speed with one of their Cascade spells. It's Demonic Dread. The other one is Sorcery Speed. All right, so just cycling again. When they cycle main phase, it usually means that they're looking for lands. Looks like they found it. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I'm going to crack the Misty Rainforest for a tapped Temple Garden, getting my white mana online. So double Eternal Witness. If we can get our Force online this game, then these Witnesses are going to be great. For now, though, definitely going to play the Prince. If you play out the island here, next turn we can have either double blue or double green if we play the breeding pool. So Prince is just going to scry here, which has been his most valuable mode by far. So Coiling Oracle, Ephemerate. I'm going to put Ephemerate first, and then Coiling Oracle on top of it, so that I draw Coiling Oracle as a blue card. Be able to pitch to Force of Negation. All right, opponent cycles again, plays a second Blackcleave Cliffs, and passes the turn. So I drew that Coiling Oracle, and have a pretty strong feeling that they're going to try to go off on my turn. That means I have to play my untapped Breeding Pool. And let's crack in with Charming Prince. See if they try to go off during combat. They do not. On my end step, they cast, so it's a Violent Outburst. Demonic Dread is the other one, the Sorcery Speed one. Violent Outburst, the name kind of makes sense. It's an instant speed. It's a combat trick. Your creatures get +1/+0. Of course, it has to be at instant speed. Opponent finds their Living End as they cascade, and that is definitely going to get not just countered, but exiled by Force of Negation. All right, opponent plays a 4th land, starts tapping some stuff, untapping some stuff. Thinks a little bit. So, Twisted Abomination, this is one I'm not super familiar with. Has regeneration and swamp cycling. So the opponent can go find a swamp, not just a basic swamp, but any swamp, I think. So they found an overgrown tomb, I believe. But had already played their land for the turn. Ephemerate is super interesting, and I guess I'll explain why. I'm going to go ahead and get in here. I doubt the opponent's going to exile a Simian Spirit Guide and try to go off, but if they do, so be it. If I play an Eternal Witness on my first main phase, and target Force of Negation, and they have the instant speed, they can go off before I get the Force back. Then they'd get all their creatures back. I'd lose the Prince. Eventually, Witness would resolve, and they get the Force, but they had already resolved their Cascade spell. So no sense really going main phase, I don't think, with Eternal Witness first main phase. Now, however, I am going to cast Eternal Witness. Target Force of Negation. Looks like the opponent is letting it resolve. So the reason that Ephemerate is cool here is that Prince has kind of a hidden mode here, which is protect target creature you control from a board wipe. So if the opponent goes for Living End at this point, first of all, I can try to counter it, and if somehow they have another one or whatever, I can, and it resolves, I can blink Charming Prince to tuck away Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness will come back at the end of the turn when Living End resolved. Eternal Witness can then get back any of my creatures or a force or whatever. So Ephemerate can effectively save one of my creatures from a board wipe type effect, like Living End. All right, so opponent goes instant speed on their main phase here, which means I do get to pitch this Force of Negation. I'm very happy to do. Play a tap land, and I don't think there's too much this deck can do with 1 mana, so I'm going to Ephemerate right now. Get the Force back, and then very nice with the rebound, actually, we can set up our draw for the turn, at least to a certain extent, by targeting Charming Prince. Versatility really showing in this first game here. The Scry coming through. Hierarch, bottom, and drew a land anyway, so, you know, whatever. Gonna get in for 2 with Eternal Witness, keep the clock ticking, and since we only have 5 lands here, it's a little bit tricky, right? We'd rather leave up... We want to leave up Counter Magic, but at the same time, Eternal Witness gets back the Ephemerate, which, if they do try to go for Living End again on their turn, we can tuck away one of our creatures, as I mentioned, with Ephemerate. So we would have some protection against the opponent trying to go off, though they already have cast 2 of their Cascade spells. They're getting to the point in the game where they typically, particularly against small creatures, would start hard casting some of their gigantic guys. So I sort of felt fine just casting Eternal Witness here. Get the Ephemerate back. Shields are down on the Force of Negation. Remember, the opponent knows that I have the Force of Negation. Not sure it matters a ton in this spot, but I am... They know both of the cards in my hand since I got them both with Eternal Witness. They're starting off by cycling, which, you know, we can't tell if they're doing that to get more creatures in the graveyard because they have a huge Living End coming up, or whether they're just going to cast a big creature, and or rather they're just digging for something, right? It looks like they're... I don't know. It's still hard to say because they have enough mana to Cascade still. Okay, so hardcast Simian Spirit Guide means they were definitely digging for something. Again, with 1 mana up, I feel totally comfortable just Ephemerating Eternal Witness. Getting back a land is fine. I am going to blink the Eternal Witness, get back Ephemerate. This is sort of one of the combos in the deck is just, you know, cycling Ephemerate like this. So this sets up kind of a nice situation where I've got Force now for whenever they try to go off because I have enough mana, but also I can attack, and whatever they block, I can just Ephemerate this Eternal Witness, get back the thing that they blocked, and recast it. So they're going to block Charming Prince, take 2 damage, and now I'm going to crack that right now, Ephemerate the Eternal Witness, get back the Charming Prince, cast the Charming Prince, choosing to scry again, getting rid of 2 cards that I don't want to draw. So this guy has gotten rid of 4 cards so far that we don't want. I believe that's what it was. Yeah, because I think we went top, bottom, if I recall correctly. So 6 scries from this one guy. Another hardcast Simian Spirit Guide. This can often happen if you counter their first money spell or 2, they can just get stuck with garbage in hand. Although more typically, like, you'll see a single hardcast Deadshot Minotaur or something like that. All right, so blink the Eternal Witness, get back the Ephemerate, keep the value train chugging along. Icefang Coatl, pretty nice because it gives us, you know, something to flash in. But we've got them pretty locked up at this point. The Force of Negation, the Ephemerate loop. I guess what happens is, so let's see. I'm gonna get back the Charming Prince. If they did wipe our board, if somehow it resolved, you can always flash in Ice Fang Quaddle during your upkeep with the rebound trigger on the stack. So this guy's also, in a way, good protection against board wipes, especially if you've got Ephemerate waiting to rebound. So let's go ahead and replay that print. We are going to scry again, and both of these are really sweet. I'm going to put Ephemerate first and then Soulherder on the very top. All right, what's this guy doing here? So here is just one of those big beefy guys, right? It's just a 6/4. And quick check shows that if we attack as is, the opponent would take 4, they're at 5. It's time to flash in the Quaddle, and with Counterspell backup, even if they have a Lightning Bolt or a Fatal Push, the game is over. So I'm not going to cast Ephemerate. Happen to draw another Ephemerate. Oh no, so I drew the Soulherder that I scried with Quaddle, and then the Ephemerate that I scried for the turn. Opponent can block one of these guys, but he's going to take 5. And yeah, pretty solid game 1 against Living End. So traditional Living End, not the Electro Dominance version. And yeah, it was really important that we drew our Force of Negation. We only needed 1. We used it twice and now have it back in hand. That's the power of the Eternal Witness Ephemerate combo. So yeah, good game, opponent. But you're at 0 life, and that's the end of game 1. Let's go ahead to game 2, see how that one went. All right, back for game 2. I guess we should check the sideboard pretty quick. So Celestial Purge, potentially useful against, well, in order to exile some of their gigantic red and black creatures that come back from the graveyard. But if you get to that point in the game against Living End, you've typically lost. Like if they get to resolve Living End and they've got 5 gigantic creatures, Celestial Purge is not going to get you out of it. Disdainful Stroke, not very good. Again, if they're hard casting their gigantic creatures, you're probably, I don't know, it's like countering one of them could help. You get one more turn to attack or something, but you just don't want to get to that point in the game, and we shouldn't really care too much about their big creatures. Like we've got Death Touchers, Path to Exiles, things like that. So that's really the only thing that Disdainful Stroke could counter. So didn't bring in a ton, actually. Let's see, I took out a single path. I took the path out to bring in another Winds of Abandon. The Winds of Abandon is a solid counter to a resolved Living End. If they get their 5 gigantic guys back, we resolve Winds of Abandon. It just exiles all the creatures. They don't go back to the graveyard, which can set the opponent back basically the entire game. They spent all their time just filling up their graveyard. They get back to the battlefield, and then you exile them. Does cost 6 mana. A little bit sketchy in that sense, Winds of Abandon, but we've got Oracle and Hierarch to help us ramp. So 1 path out for 1 extra Winds of Abandon. Then I guess I took out the single Deputy of Detention, because again, they don't have a lot of permanents, and if they do get a bunch of creatures, dealing with 1 or 2 of them is not really going to do very much. And I'm going to think what that other card is that I brought in as I look at the opening hands. So this is so super borderline. You know, they're on the play. They're gonna be able to open pretty quickly. This hand could go turn 1, land, turn 2, land, Oracle, ramp, turn 3, play a land, and then they go Living End, and I bounce the Living End back to their hand, which at that point they can't cascade into it anymore. So it's sort of like countering it, because if they want to resolve that Living End, they have to actually suspend it. But it just doesn't do quite enough for me. We have all of our forces. So I believe that I mulligan this hand. And this is just so much better, right? Easily pitch one of the Ephemerates, and we're sort of set. Opponent did keep 7 here. Drew a Forest, not the best. I'm going to play it and play the Noble Hierarch. Do your worst, opponent. But I guess they're cycling here. All right, so they exiled 2 Simian Spirit Guides off the basic forest, providing the green for Violent Outburst. I was like, well, Living End at this point is very strange, but it looks like they they replaced their Living Ends with Crashing Footfalls. And in order for this to happen on turn 1, they need to have 5 specific cards in hand. They need to have a green land, 2 Simian Spirit Guides, a Violent Outburst. Like, they could have had Demonic Dread, in which case they would have needed a black land, I think. And they would have done it main phase. But to do it at instant speed, they need Violent Outburst, 4 cards, Forest, and double Simian Spirit Guide. And they had it. So this is very impressive. 2/4/4 trample rhinos on turn 1. So, not looking too good for us at this point. Can't counter it, obviously, because it's the opponent played it on my turn. So this Icefang Coatl is going to have to put in some work. This Vista grabbing a basic, hopefully, get us closer, get us quickly to Death Touch range with Icefang Coatl. So this is a 3-turn clock. It's just 8 trample damage each turn. Opponent plays a Grove of the Burn Willows, swings for 8. I go down to 12. Play a Snow-Covered Plains that I drew. Actually, not terrible, since again we do want to get Icefang Coatl to Death Touch. So play the basic Plains, play the Coatl off of Hierarch, making blue. Muldrifter is super nice with Ephemerate, and we can do that next turn. But if we do that, we might just be dead. All right, the opponent untaps. They go to attack with these gigantic rhinos. Let's check out that artwork. So this guy's got some shiny headgear on, and I think he has gear on his sides, like stirrups. I guess for somebody to ride him, they would need pretty long legs. I guess like a giant or something. Anyhow, 4/4 trample, pretty scary. Not gonna block yet. We don't have Death Touch. Charming Prince. Now that was very, very, very interesting. So if I just play Muldrifter, evoked for 3 with the plan of ephemerating it, that taps me out, gives me a Death Toucher, and a 2/2. So one of these guys would die, and then I could absorb 3 points of damage, which is not enough because I'm at 4. So Charming Prince, what we saw in game 1, he scryed 2 like 4 or 5 times. I mentioned the last ability, the Exile ability, very usefully playing around board wipes. And now the life gain is going to be clutch. So I'm going to play this guy. It's going to gain me 3. I'm going to go up to 7. It's not quite enough yet to stay alive, but we do have the Ephemerate. We can blink him, go up to 10, and of course live. I don't want to crack this land yet, just to maybe not make the opponent realize that the Coatl has Death Touch. Possible that they don't care. I mean, their plan is just to attack with the rhinos, right? So they attack. I crack the Vista. We already have 2 colors, so I'm going to get the 3rd here. Going to Ephemerate the Prince, as I mentioned. Only going up to 9 because I lost 1 from the Vista, but it's enough to stay alive. Death Touch one of the rhinos. We take 7, go down to 2. The Ephemerate is going to rebound. We gain some life. We're going to go up to 5. Not low enough for the rhino to kill me. So thank you very much, Prince. Just gained me 9 life. It was 3, and then Ephemerate was 3, and now the rebound is 3. And another Ephemerate. I've had like the most clutch draws in this game here. The Charming Prince, and then the second Ephemerate right on time. So that gives me a bit of breathing space. I'm not going to die to 1 rhino, which means it might just be time to Muldrift and evoke. Put evoke on the stack first, draw 2 cards. Okay, well, Soulherder could be very nice. We can keep gaining life every turn. Soulherder is also a card that I can pitch to Force of Negation. So now we're gonna evoke him, draw 2 more cards. And 2 lands, not very good at all. But Muldrifter drawing us 4 cards is pretty sweet. Okay, they're just gonna cycle a Monstrous Carabid. And I'm going to play Vista and play that Hierarch. We do have Force of Negation up if they try to Living End on their turn. Oh, not Living End at this point. I guess they're just crashing Footfalls. So here's Demonic Dread, and they're going to probably hit more Footfalls. Okay, so there it is. I had to think carefully about this because I'd rather not pitch the Soulherder. If I play that, I get to gain, or rather draw 2 cards or gain 3 life every turn, but we're going to take this Rhino's damage this turn, go down to 2, and then if they untap with 12 trample, that just seems like too much. So I had to counter this Footfalls, I think. So pitch the Soulherder, very sad. They're saying that Muldrifter can't block. That's okay, I was not going to block. Rebound, we are definitely going to draw 2 cards. And that was pretty slick. Looks like we drew Venser and Charming Prince off of the Muldrifter, and then Witness as our draw for the turn. So things are starting to look up for us. Venser presents lots of options. We can bounce this token to sort of get some breathing room. We can, what's probably better is to at least wait until the opponent's turn to see if they have another Cascade spell, in which case we could cast Venser and put that Cascade, like the Footfalls, back in their hand. I mentioned this in game 1. If that happens, then you, if the spell that's getting cascaded into goes back into the opponent's hand, then they have to actually suspend it, which means that it's going to take like 4 turns to resolve. So I've got plenty of blue mana here with my Hierarchs. 6 as things stand. 6 mana. I think we can play a land, so that would be 7. So we could go Witness and Venser. Alternatively, we play a Charming Prince, go up to 5. I kind of like that better, and then see what the opponent does, and then next turn we can Witness, Ephemerate, cast Ephemerate immediately, get back a Force, that kind of thing. So let's go Charming Prince, gain 3 life. This is pretty defensive, because again the Venser is pretty dominant in this position. If the opponent doesn't have another Cascade spell, we can just bounce this token and not really worry about anything. I'm actually going to swing with the Prince here. Double Exalted is no joke, so he hits for 4, the same as the Rhino. And the opponent does have another Demonic Dread, so pretty good. But Venser's going to put that in the opponent's hand. As I mentioned, the Hierarch's providing blue mana. All right, so Demonic Dread resolves. The Muldrifter can't block, but I've got plenty of life. No worries. I drew a Forest, played the Forest, going to play Witness with 3 green mana, grab Ephemerate number 1, cast it on Eternal Witness right away, get back Ephemerate number 2. Now I'm going to hold that one up because we've got lots and lots and lots of potential tricks here. If the opponent goes again into like Demonic Dread, we can just Ephemerate Venser to again put that spell back into the opponent's hand. We can Ephemerate Muldrifter, we can Ephemerate Charming Prince to tuck a creature away. So really no reason to cast Ephemerate right away. If the opponent plays a land and plays some 4-drop creature, I don't think any of their creatures are 4-drops, we could also just blink Venser to return it to their hand. A lot of good options. We can blink Charming Prince and just gain life. So getting in for 6 because we've got 10 power on board. Putting the opponent down to 10 means it's a one turn clock. Opponent cycles, plays a tap land. I think that they just suspended Footfalls. Opponent's going to attack. At this point, it's kind of desperation because I can easily just sort of double block. I would take 1, kill the Rhino, still untap and attack for 6, but don't have to do that. Blink the Venser. Opponent knows I have the Ephemerate in hand, so could have seen that one coming. And at that point, they scooped. So that was a pretty sensational game. The opponent had 2 turn 1 4/4 tramplers against a deck of Grizzly Bears, and we were able to get there. Charming Prince in this match, game 1, game 2. All 3 modes being pretty useful. I didn't actually use the 3rd mode. I used the 1st mode, I think 4 or 5 times. Used the 2nd mode, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times, something like that in this game. So I'm really enjoying this card as a 2 of. I've been thinking about some potential changes to the deck. Oko from Throne of Eldraine is a Planeswalker. It's a 3-drop. I've got a single Teferi Time Raveler also as a 3-drop Planeswalker, and he's just been sensational so far. So I think the idea of having 2 Planeswalkers at 3-drop is pretty nice because it makes Hierarch a lot better, because if you get Hierarch out on turn 1, then with 3 mana, getting a Planeswalker down on turn 2 is just sort of incredible. Really hard for the opponent to keep up with all that value. So if I play 2 Planeswalkers, then it starts to become more appealing again running Time Warps, because instead of just cycling with Time Warp, you're getting to reactivate your Planeswalkers every turn. So I might want to make some space in the deck for Oko and at least 1, if not 2 Time Warps, just to give it a try, this idea of Time Warp with Planeswalkers. There was a list that made top 8 in a relatively big tournament, I think, in Ghent. It had Little Teferi, Big Teferi, and Jace with 3 Time Warps, and 4 Eternal Witness, 4 Soulherder, which is what I'm on also. But this idea of Planeswalkers and Time Warps seems pretty cool to me. Somebody on the Discord was mentioning that it really helps against the big mana decks having access to the Time Warp combo, because you can counter like 1 or 2 things in the early game, and without a combo, your dorks are probably not going to be able to get there by themselves. The Tron opponent or the Titan Shift opponent is going to have enough time to reach their sort of inevitability point where they'll just play Ulamog or Primeval Titan. Before they can get there, if we have the Time Warp in hand, we can just start comboing off, and our dorks sort of are no longer the win condition. The win condition is just, playing Time Warp 50 times, and I guess the dorks are the win condition, but they've got an infinite number of turns to attack at that point. But the reason I bring this up is there's going to need to be cuts to make that happen. I recently went up to 11 2-drops. I trimmed some of my high end, added in a Watcher for tomorrow, and that card, every time I play it, it just it draws me 6 cards with Ephemerate, and they're not just any cards because I'm choosing each one from the top 4 of my deck with Hideaway. So I've been loving the Singleton Watcher. I have a feeling I'm going to have to trim one of the princes, maybe even add a 20-second land if I start playing Time Warps again. Anyhow, got a lot of this stuff going through my head. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick single match here. Please leave your thoughts down below. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and if you'd like to support the channel and all these videos, please check out my Patreon page. There should be a link right here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.